Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. I'm gonna walk you guys through the materials that you will be needing and I will be using for this tutorial so you can get yours ready. So for the first material, I'm using this acrylic yarn. This is actually most of the yarn that I use. It is from the same brand that I always use, which is a Zeman brand. One of this is actually 100 gram, but I ended up using about 500, which means 5 of these for the size that I made. So I don't know, you have to play around and find the balance for your own size and see how much you would need. I am using a 5mm for the entire tutorial. This is what we started with and this is what we're ending with. You're also going to need some scissors and you're going to need some measurement tape because there are a few measurements that you will be needing for this actual tutorial. For measurements, you're going to need your bust measurement. That is basically the most important part of this tutorial. And then depending on how you want the fitting to be, you can make this fitted or you can make this loose. So my initial bust measurement is about 37 inches, but because I want to make this loose, I did end up going with a few more inches, which you guys will see later on in the video. So I think I ended up with 42 just because I wanted a very loose fit for this actual pattern. And then the next measurement you're going to need is actually your desired dress length measurement. You can make this a polo if you want to, which means it's going to be shorter, or you can make this an actual dress that I did, which is going to be longer, sorry. So depending on what you want, but you're basically going to start from your shoulders and then you're working your way down to wherever you want your actual dress to stop, and that is your desired dress measurement that you're going to end up with. I think mine was about 32 to 33 inches. Right after, you're going to need your desired sleeve, and that is basically from your shoulders up until wherever you want the sleeve to stop. And then the next measurement you're going to need is basically for the opening at the front, so you can know how wide you want yours to be. So that is going to be measured from your shoulders up until wherever you want it to be. Mine was about 10 inches, so mine ends right there. But again, you guys should know that these measurements are definitely something you can play around with to your desired taste and desired length or measurement. But yeah, let's go to the table and start working on the actual piece. So with your bust measurement, you're going to go ahead and just make a chain that is as long as that measurement. Again, if you decide to make yours fitted, you're just going to make the exact chain to fit that measurement. But if you decide to make yours a bit free, just the same way I'm going to do mine, then you can just add more inches depending on how many inches you want to add. But I ended up chaining a total of 88. Also keep in mind that this pattern is worked in multiple of 4 plus 2, which means 88 is basically a multiple of 4 because you can divide 88 by 4 and get an even number instead of an odd number. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 88 plus 2, which gives me a total of 90 chains. I'm going to go into the second chain with a single crochet, and right after I'm going to chain 3, and right into that second chain, the same chain, I'm going to go with 3 double crochets. So you're basically inserting 3 more double crochets because the chain 3 we just did is also a double crochet stitch. So I'm going to insert 3 more double crochets all into that same stitch. Right afterwards, I'm going to go ahead and skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and into the fourth I'm going to go with a single crochet, sorry. After a single crochet, I'm going to chain 3 and I'm going to go right into that same chain with 3 individual double crochets all into that same chain. Right there. From there on, I'm going to go ahead and skip 3, and into the fourth I'm going to go with a single crochet, chain 3, and into that same chain again with 3 double crochets. And this is what you're going to repeat until you get to the very end of the row. I'm coming to the end of the row and I have one more chain, so I'm going to go into that chain of 1 space and single crochet to end off the row. and right there you have your first row, and this is what it should look like. So again, if you divide the chain that you did, you should have a total. Again, in my case I chained 88, and when you divide that by 4, it will give you a total of 22. So if you count these sets 1, 2, you should have a total of 22, and I do. Again, for yours it might be different, but just divide the amount of number you add initially by 4, and whatever number you get, that's the amount of these. I don't know what we're gonna call these. That's the amount of these you should get at the end of the first row. So for row 2, you're going to go ahead and chain 6. After chaining 6, you're going to turn, and this time around you're going to single crochet into the 4th chain, into the 4th stitch, sorry. So we have 3 double crochets, and then right after we have a chain 3 space. So the single crochet is going to go right in between this last double crochet and the chain 3 space, and right there you're going to go ahead and single crochet. After that, you're going to chain 3 now instead of chaining 6, because that was the beginning of the row, and this chain 3 that you just chain 6 is basically a starting chain, right? So afterwards you're going to chain 3, and you're going to skip the first 3 double crochets on the set, and right in between the last double crochet and the chain 3 space, you're going to go with a single crochet, chain 3 again. In between this double crochet and chain 3 space, you're going to go with a single crochet, and that is what you're going to do for the entire row 2, and I'll see you guys at the end of row 2. Coming to the end of the row, you're going to chain 3, and right in between this last set, you're going to go with your single crochet again to end off the row, and that completely just end of row 2 for you. And for row 3, you're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn into this very first single crochet. You're going to go with a single crochet, and right after your single crochet, you're going to chain 3 and go into that same single crochet with 3 additional double crochets. So again, the chain 3 we just did is a stitch on its own, and right there you have your first set. Afterwards, you're going to skip this chain 3 space, and you're going to go into this next single crochet with a single crochet, chain 3 and 3 double crochets all into that single crochet stitch. Right after, you're going to skip chain 3 space into the single crochet with a single crochet, chain 3, and then you're going to go ahead and do 3 double crochets all into that same space, and this is what you're going to repeat until you get to the end of the row. Hey guys, right here I'm coming to the end of row 3. We're going to end off the row by going into this chain 6 space. So remember, we have a chain 6 at the beginning of row 2, so you're going to count into the 4th chain. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, and right into this 4th chain in this set, you're going to go ahead and go with a single crochet to end off the row, and that is how you end off row 3 of the pattern. So for the rest of the rows, you're just going to go ahead and repeat row 2 and row 3, and that is what you're going to do until you have your desired length for the back panel. Again, there is something at the very bottom of the panel, so with that you're going to subtract 1.5 inches. If you want it to be longer, then you're going to go ahead and obviously subtract more, but in my case I subtract 1.5 inches from that. And for example, if your desired length is 30 inches, you're going to subtract 1.5 inches, which means this back panel, this pattern is going to be about 28.5 inches. So that is what you're going to repeat. You're going to switch between row 2 and row 3 for the entire pattern until you have that length, and I'm going to do the same thing as well. Hey guys, it's been a couple of hours, I think about 8. Has it been 8 hours already? I'm not sure, but it's been a couple of hours and I finished the back panel, which I'm super surprised, because it's still 4 p.m. and I thought I was gonna spend the entire day working on the back panel, sorry, but I finished it, and this is what it looks like. And again, like I said, you're just going to repeat that until you have your desired length. I am honestly filming this video for the second time, so that's the reason why I'm super not I don't want to say not interested, but I'm just tired because I'm filming something again for the second time, and I lost the file because my memory card decided to just break, so I lost the file. The first 2 files of this video was lost, so now I'm going to end up with 2 pieces. I didn't want to tell you guys that, but I'm telling you guys anyway, just so you know how much of a struggle this is. I finished the entire piece, as you guys can see right here, but I have to film the entire first part of this tutorial again because I lost the file, because I lost one of my memory cards that I was using decided to just die. Yeah, but anyway, the back panel is complete. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the front panel. The only difference is the length is going to be different. So again, like I was saying, I already finished this panel, so you can see that the front panel stops right here, and then from here to there. So the measurement you took from your where you want the opening to be to your shoulders, that's the amount you're going to subtract from your full back panel, guys. Sorry if I'm blabbing, I honestly don't even know what I'm saying at this point, but that's what you're going to subtract from the back panel. So again, if your back panel is 30 inches, you're going to subtract 10 inches from the 30, and you're going to make 20 inches for the front panel. Do that, and I'll see you guys when I have that complete. Because hey guys, I have an update. So I finished my 20 rows for the front panel, and this is what it should look like. So now you're going to divide the neckline, and to do that you're just going to fold this into 2. You're folding the panel into 2, and depending on how wide, honestly I think it's the same for every size, so you're basically going to fold this into 2, and then usually you have 1, 2. I still need to complete this row, by the way, but if you work your way up until the very end, you should have center panel, right? So this is the center panel when it's folded. So you're basically going to count this set of 4 double crochets as 1, 2, 3, and you're going to mark the stitch right there with a stitch marker, and you're going to mark the opposite side as well with a stitch marker. So I'm going to do. So I finished off that particular row, and all I did was I marked the 2 edges from the folded side. In the clip you guys can see that I did count 3 from the folded side, but that was a mistake because I later on went and did 2 instead of 3 because 3 is too wide. So the right there I'm taking off the stitch marker because it should be at the very second, which means when you open the panel and then you have the full panel, you should have 4 sets in between. Again, we're going to keep calling the 4 set of double crochet 1 set. So when you open the panel, you should have 4 sets in between, which means when you divide that 4, you're going to have an even number, which leaves you right at the center. So you have 2 on the left and 2 on the right. So you're basically going to mark your stitch marker like that, and so exactly when you open it, it should look like that. Instead of having it too wide, you should actually have just 4 in the center. That should be enough for each size, for every size, so you don't have to adjust that according to your size, because later on I'll show you guys how you have to adjust that in case it is so wide, too wide compared to how you would want it to be, because later on it was a bit too wide for me. But there's actually a way you can actually adjust that as you go in the video that I will show you guys later. After marking your stitch, you're going to go ahead and repeat the same pattern, which is row 2 and row 3, for you to have the same length as the back panel. But then this time around again, you're going to work on those 2 sides of the panel separately, and that is what is going to make the front panel different from the back panel. So you're going to just continue to repeat row 2 and row 3, which makes 1 set, for a total of 6 sets. And then afterwards, and then I'll see you guys what the next step is, show you guys what the next step is. If you've seen if you paid attention to the intro, you would see that the very top of the front panel is with a single crochet row. So later on, after the 6 sets of row 2 and row 3, I'm going to show you guys how you can just switch from that to a single crochet row to finish off the front panel. I finished the 6 rows, which actually just works me up to a total of 28 rows. Again, I did a total of 32 for the back panel, which means I have an additional 4 rows to do so I can have the same length as the back panel. But because I'm going to do single crochet row for the next few rows, we're going to use inches, or you're just going to attach the front panel to the back panel and align that as you go. So, and that is super easy. All I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to go into every stitch, right? So usually when you chain for the next row, which is basically a row 2, you're going to chain 6, right? But this time around you're just chaining 1, and right into this very first stitch you're going to go with a single crochet, and you're just going to go into this first set of 4. Let me close. Again, you're just going to go into this first set of 4. You're going to go with 1 single crochet each, and when you get to this chain 3 space, you're still going to go in there into the 3rd chain with 1 single crochet, because at the end you need 4 single crochets. And afterwards you're going to skip this space in between this first set and the second set. You're going to go into the second set with 1 single crochet each, which leaves you now with 4 single crochets all together. But that's honestly what you're going to do until you get to the stitch marker, honestly, to this point. So wherever you have a double crochet, you're going to insert a single crochet into it, and wherever you have a chain 3, of course, because the chain 3 is also a double crochet, you're going to insert a single crochet into it. And then when you get to the very end, you're going to chain 1, turn, and repeat that. And that is honestly what I'm going to do until I have my panel to be about the same length as my back panel, my front panel to be about the same length as my back panel. And again, like I said, this might be different for you, but I'll let you guys know how many rows I did when I have that complete. Guys, so I finished the one side of the front panel, and this is how it actually looks. You can see the single crochet row. I did a total of 12 single crochet, and that actually equivalents to the 4 set. So you can use your measurement table. All I did was I just aligned this panel to my back panel, and then I made sure that it was the same length, which is perfect. So we're going to repeat the same thing on the side, but I wanted to highlight that when you're working on the side, usually if you have to do this, you would initially you just go to the edge of the panel and reattach your yarn and start working. But because of the way the pattern is built, remember we're going to single crochet into the center of the 3 double crochets and then the last double crochet set, right? Hope you guys understand what I mean. But the double crochet, the chain 3 space, the 3 chains in this case are actually on the side. So if you reattach your yarn on the side and you want to work your way inwards, you're going to find out that the chain 3 is on the side, which means you're going to not have the chain 3 to single crochet in. So what I would suggest you do, or what you should do, is you're going to reattach your yarn at the center instead of at the edge, so that way your chain 3 space, which is right there, is where you're going to single crochet, right? But if you reattach your yarn on this side, you are not going to have your chain 3. You can still single crochet in between this 2 last double crochets, by the way, but just in case you get lost along the way, I just wanted to highlight that. But I'm going to repeat the same step, and when I have the opposite side complete, I'm going to come back and show you guys what the next step is. So the front panel is complete. Now I'm just going to attach the shoulders, which is these 2 panels, to the back panel. Again, keep in mind that you have to make sure that you align the panels well, so the edge is at the edge while the top is at the top. You don't want to turn this upside down. So I'm just going to single crochet the shoulders together, and then afterwards obviously I'm going to decide how wide I want the armpit hole to be, and I'm just going to mark that area and single crochet as well before I start the next part, which is going to be the sleeve. But this is what it looks like so far. So you're just going to single crochet, reattach your yarn, single crochet all the way. Take your time and just single crochet each stitches together. Remember, the back panel does not have a single crochet, so you literally have to just take your time and go into each stitch and single crochet that together. I'm just going to do the same thing on the opposite side as well, and then I'll see you guys when I have that complete. For the sleeve, I'm still going to use the 5mm for that, and all I'm going to do is just the same way I would actually just work a basic sleeve. I'm just going to attach the yarn right at the seam area of the armpit hole. So, oh, this is such a mess. I am still going to use the 5mm, And I'm just going to grab the yarn and attach that to the seam area underneath the armpit hole. So right there, I'm just going to attach the yarn and make a secure knot. And right after my secure knot, all I'm going to do is go all around this first with the first row of single crochet. So I'm just going to go right into that stitch, grab the yarn and pull through, and right from there I'm going to chain one, and I'm just going to make my way with one single crochet all around this armpit hole, the sleeve area, so I can actually have a base. You can also, I would suggest you count how many stitches you're doing so you can have a multiple of 4, but I'm basically just going to repeat this all around until I get to the very end. If you cannot keep up with counting, that is also fine, but just continue to do one single crochet like I'm doing like this until you get to the very beginning of the row. So I just finished my first single crochet row, which is the base row for this pattern. So you're just basically going to work your way up until you get to that very main stitch, and then you're just going to go ahead and slip stitch into that very first stitch to end off the base row. So to get started, I'm going to start with row 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, go into this very first stitch again with a single crochet, and after the single crochet I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to go into that same stitch with 3 more double crochets, just the same way we worked the panels. That's what we're going to do. So now after that I'm going to skip 3 chains, 3 single crochets in this case, so 1 2 3, and into the 4th I'm going to go with a single crochet, chain 3 again, and I'm going to go into that stitch with 3 double crochets. This is what I'm going to repeat until I get to the very beginning. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll see you guys at the very beginning. Hey guys, so I just got to the very beginning of the row, and now I'm going to show you guys how you can work this. So remember, the pattern is worked in multiple of 4 plus 2, right? But that was when we were working on panels. So when you're working in this form in a circle, it's going to be a multiple of 4, just multiple of 4 and no additional 2. So you're basically going to work your pattern up until your very last few stitches. So I have a total of 3 more stitches instead of 4. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to skip that 3 stitches and pretend, well, honestly that's perfect because the 3 stitches is basically the stitch right before the first chain 3 space, right? So what I'm going to do, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch right into this chain 3 space to end of the row, and right there we have your first row complete. After slip stitching, you're going to go ahead and turn your work to the opposite side of the panel. So basically we're going to go right onto the opposite end. So right from there you're going to go ahead and chain 4. After chaining 4, you're going to go in between this chain 3 and double crochet with a single crochet, just the same way we worked the panel. Afterwards you're chaining 3 and you're repeating that all around. Keep in mind that I chained 4 for this instead of chaining 6 that I did for the panel, and the reason is because again, this is not a panel, so you don't have to chain 4, you can just chain 3, and that is what I'm going to repeat all around, and I'll see you guys at the very end. After working your second row, I hope you guys can see what I'm doing. I have 3 double crochet and then a chain 3, which is from the previous row, but then this is exactly where I started the row with the chain 4. So, and that chain 4 is right above the chain 3 on this side, which means I'm just going to find that top chain and I'm going to go ahead and single crochet right on top of that chain to end off the row. And right there you just ended off the row. From here on, we are going to start with the next pattern, which is going to be a chain 1 single crochet, but again we are going to turn to the opposite side. You're going to chain 1, go into the same stitch with a single crochet. So you're going into that chain 4 space with a single crochet in this case, and right after the single crochet you're going to chain 3 and you're going to go into that same stitch with 3 more double crochets. and this is going to be your very first one. And afterwards, you skip in chain 3, and into the single crochet stitch you're going to go with a single crochet, chain 3, and 3 additional double crochets right into that same space. And this is what I am going to do until I get to the very beginning. When I get to the very beginning, I'm slip stitching into this chain 3 space, chain 4, turn, and repeat the same thing until I have my desired sleeve length. And also for the sleeve length, just the same way we actually deduct about 3 inches from the panels, that's the same thing you're going to do. So in this case, instead of doing 3 inches, maybe you do about 1.5 inches. It just depends on you. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, but I'll decide when I have that complete. So I'm just gonna repeat this, and I'll see you guys when I have my both sleeves complete, and then we'll go to the next step. I have an update. So I finished the one sleeve this morning, and I'm almost done with this, but I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like now. We are going to, as you guys can see, I repeated the single crochet row around the edge of this sleeve, and I'm going to do the same thing on this sleeve, and just the same way we did at the very beginning when we switched from this pattern to the single crochet pattern. That's the same exact thing that I'm going to do. I'm just going to chain 1 and go into every chain if you end up with the chain row, but if you end up with the double crochet row, you're just going to go into every double crochet. So remember, in one set we have chain 3 and 3 double crochets, so you're going to go into that chain 3 with 1 single crochet, and into the remaining 3 double crochets you're going to go with 1 single crochet, just the same way I did. So I'm going to finish off the sleeve, because then we have the sleeve complete. And when I'm done, and I'm going to do the same exact step at the very edge. Just for reference, I did about 8 rows of single crochet, and that's the same thing I'm going to do on the opposite sleeve, and that's the same thing I'm going to do to the very edge. But of course, you can make this longer, so if you want it to be more than 8 single crochet rows, then you should do so. But I'm going to finish this sleeve, finish the edge, and then I'm going to come back because we still have something to do at the very neck of this pattern. Hey guys, so this is what the final, well, not the final, I finished the sleeves and I finished the edge of the rest with a single crochet row. Again, I did 8 inches for this and 8 inches for this. And just to be sure about the width, just to be sure about the length, 8 inches is about 1.5. 8 rows is about 1.5 inches. So instead of doing the 3 inches, I did 1.5 inches. So when I'm editing this, I'm just going to readjust that. But this is what it looks like. Now we are going to start with the color pattern, and then we are going to just complete this. So again, remember we left 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going to divide this into 2. So now I'm just going to take off the stitch marker, and I'm going to mark the center of these 2 sets of, so basically 1, 2, 1, 2 on the opposite side as well. You can take a measurement of that and see how wide yours is, but I think mine is about 2 inches on each side. So it's about 2 inches on the side, so 2 inches on the side, 2 inches on the side. So that is what we are going to work. We are going to work this separately, and later on we attach that. But then you're going to need the size, the measurement from this point to this point, and you're going to need the measurement from this point up until this point where we ended off before we started with a single crochet row. So basically from here to here is 2 inches, but from here to the upper part where we started the single crochet row is about 6 inches. So it's going to be 6 inches wide. It's going to be 2 inches wide, sorry, and then 6 inches long. So that's what we're going to do with the single crochet in a bit. So let me grab my yarn so we can start working on that together. I'm just going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to just make a chain that is 6 inches, 2 inches wide. So again, one set is basically with 4 double crochets, so 2 sets is 8 double crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 9 plus the 8, which is going to be a turning chain. And right after, I'm going to go into the second chain with a single crochet and just repeat 1 single crochet into each chain until I get to the very end. So at the end I should have a total of 8 single crochets. After my 8 single crochets, I'm going to chain 1, turn, and into the same single crochet from the previous row, I'm going to go with 1 single crochet. So I'm basically going to go into that first single crochet with a single crochet, and I'm going to repeat 1 single crochet until I get to the very end. And this is what I'm going to do until I have a total of 6 inches. So when I have that complete, I'll come back and show you guys what it looks like. But you're just going to repeat this 1 single crochet until you get to the very end of the row, chain 1, and then you're going to go back and repeat that until you have a total of 6 inches. So right here I just finished my 6 inches. I did about 24 rows for reference. I'm also going to take the measurement so you guys can see that it is about 6 inches, but this might be a bit different from what you have. Hold on, is this even 6 inches? Yes, it's about 6, almost 6.5 inches. I don't think that's an issue. So this might be different for you. You're just going to take the measurement on your piece, and then you know how many inches you need to get done. But for the next step, we're also going to take another measurement, because then we're going to know how long the next part of this piece is going to be, right? So remember, we just took the measurement from this stitch marker up until this area. So if I align this, it should fit exactly on this area and then the length as well. So knowing that this fits this area, the next measurement we're going to be needing is the measurement from this part all up until this side, right? And then from there we're going to do some increasing and decreasing as we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the measurement from this side. So the measurement from where this stops up until where the seam area is around the shoulders, that's the measurement you're going to take. And in this case is about 4 inches, right? So that is 4 inches, and then from there you're going to take where you stop. So from here to the opposite seam area is also about 5 inches, which means from this seam area downwards is going to be 4 inches, because this was 4 inches. But just to confirm, I'm just going to take the measurement, and right there you can see that that's 4 inches. So we have 4 inches, 5 inches, and then 4 inches, which in total gives us a total of 8 plus 5, 13 inches, right? And still remember that after that 5 inches we do have 6 inches more, right? So we basically have 6 inches, 6 plus 4, which gives us 10, 6 plus 4, which gives us 10, and then the 5 inches around the back, and which is basically what we did. All we had to do was subtract 10 inches from the front panel to the back panel. So you're basically going to fill in those inches so this can overlap and you can have a entire collar falling off. But this time around we are going to do something different. So again, I'm going to put the numbers so you guys can see. We have 6 inches, we have 4, we have 5, we have 4, and then we have 6 more. That's what this panel is going to work. So in total this has to be a total of 25 inches long. And again, this might be different for you depending on what you decided to do, but that is what mine is and what it looks like. For my 24 rows, I am going to go ahead and chain double the amount of chains. So remember we chained 8, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 16. And after chaining 16, I'm going to chain an extra 1, so that will be a turning chain, and I'm going to go into the second chain with a single crochet and just work my way up with 1 single crochet up until I get to the end of the 16th chain. So working up to my way to the 16, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into that very first on the set of 8 with my last single crochet, and I'm going to end it right there. Chain 1 and turn, 1 and turn. I'm just going to go into every single crochet on from here on with 1 single crochet. I'm just going to repeat 1 single crochet until I get to the very end, and this is what I'm going to repeat for a total of 13 rows. So I'm going to 13 inches, sorry, I'm going to do this for a total of 13 inches, and I'll see you guys when I have that complete. Finished my 13 inches. I did about 28 rows in total. So now we are just going to repeat the remaining 6 inches that we have to do on this opposite side. So if you ended off the row on this side, I'll suggest you just work your way up until this side of the pattern, because this is where you're going to do the remaining 6 rows. So what I'm going to, the remaining 8 rows, sorry, 6 inches, guys. I don't know why I keep losing my words. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and chain a total of 8, sorry. And I'm also going to go ahead and chain an additional one, which is going to be a turning chain. And right after, I'm going to go into the single crochet row with a single crochet and just working my way up until the end of the chain with 1 single crochet. So I should have a total of 8 single crochets at the end. From then, I'm just going to go into this very first stitch on this full set with 1 single crochet, and from there on I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and just going to go into each and every single crochet with 1 single crochet. But this time around I'm just going to repeat the same amount of rows I did on this side. It's the same amount of rows I'm going to do until I have a total of 6 inches basically, and then I'm going to come back and show you guys what the next step is. But that is all I'm going to repeat. Hey guys, so I finished the additional 6 row on the opposite side, and we are going to attach it to this side of the panel. But firstly, we are going to do something a bit different. So you're going to align the panel to the dress, and you're going to just align this. But because I want this part of the color to overlap on this side of the panel, what we're going to do is we're going to decrease a little bit around this area. So remember, we have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to decrease that into 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach the yarn right on the space before the first one, and I'm just going to make a secure knot. Grab the yarn. Now I have a single crochet there. I'm just going to chain 1, go into this very first stitch. I have 2 loops. I'm going to go into the next stitch, available space, and I'm going to single crochet that two together. Again, I'm going to go into this next available space, grab the yarn. I'm skipping the space and I'm going into this next set of 4, and I'm going to single crochet that two together. Not lastly, but again, I'm going to go into this next available space, grab the yarn, pull through. I have 2 loops, and I'm going to go into the next loop. I have 3 loops, and I'm going to just, honestly, I've double crochet those 3 together instead of single crochet. And this is what I'm going to repeat until I get to the very end. So I'm going to take off the stitch marker, go into the next stitch, and I've double crochet that 2 together, go into the next available space, pull through, go into the next space, I've double crochet that together. So I'm just going to cut that off there. And for me, right here, you can see that this did become smaller. So when we are attaching, we are going to overlap the opposite side. Yeah, when we are attaching, we are going to overlap the opposite side on this one, so we can have something a bit different. So now we'll get to that we'll get back to that in a bit, but for now we are just going to start with single crocheting the panel onto the piece. So I'm going to go back into that same space, grab the yarn, and then I'm going to make a secure knot again. And this time around, I'm just going to go into this one side of the panel, basically where the chain 8 is, this 8 single crochets, and I'm going to grab the yarn, chain 1. You can do this in so many different ways depending on where you want the seam to be. So if you don't want the seam to be outside, then I'll suggest you turn the entire piece to the opposite side, so you can single crochet it on or not turn the entire piece, but just turn this to the side, so the seam is going to be on the side. When you open it, this is going to be without the seam, but if you want the seam, you can also just fold this and single crochet it that way. So I think I'm gonna go with this one. If I don't like it, I can always go back and reverse it, but I'm just gonna start with that first. So right at that point, I'm just going to go ahead and single crochet the first 6 inches together. So basically the panel we just worked on separately, I am just going to take my time and going into each available space on that panel and each available space on the piece, and I'm just going to single crochet those two together. You can use a slip stitch for this method. You can also use a needle, whatever that works for you, but I am just stuck on single crocheting pieces together because I feel like I just love the way that turn out all the time. So that's what I'm going to repeat for the first 6 inches, and then I'll see you guys when I have that complete. Just finished single crocheting the first set of 6 inches, so I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. So this is what it looks like without the seam on the sides, and this is what it looks like with the seam on that side. So you're just definitely going to choose where you want the seam to be. So after doing that, all I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure I have the right side of this opposite part, because we are going to go ahead and start single crocheting this side. Right after I have that single crochet to the first 6, remember we're working in parts, we're going to finish this first 6, the 8, and then we move to the next 6 inches, the 13, sorry, in the center. So after that, what I'm going to do now, we're going to do something a bit different. I just wanted to experiment and see what this is going to look like, because from now on we need to attach this 13 inches onto the wider part, onto the remaining side. But what we're going to do is, because we did chain and there's a gap between that, and this is going to be laid like this and not like this, we are going to have a gap if it's laid like this, right? So there is a gap, this is the gap. So what we're going to do is we're going to slightly bend this side, and we're going to single crochet that onto this 6 inches first before we start single crocheting the edge onto the side. I hope you guys understand. And then it's going to carefully fall like that. Hope you guys can see the vision. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go into that stitch. So I'm going to turn the 13 inches. I'm going to cut off the yarn for this. So I'm going to cut off the yarn. Instead of single crocheting it together on this end, you're going to turn it to the opposite end. So when you're complete and this falls over, the seam is going to be at this end. So I'm just going to grab the yarn and I'm going to single crochet this all together. Again, you can use whatever stitch you want to use, or a needle to do this as well. So right there, I just attached this side to it. So now again, like I was saying, when we have this bend over and this goes above like that, we are going to have this good side overlapping easily and not in an awkward way. And this is what it looks like so far. So right from there on, we are just naturally going to go ahead and single crochet the very edge. But now keep in mind that because of this, we already reduced the amount from 13 inches to something smaller. So you're going to stretch this. That's the reason why we use the single crochet stitch, because it's super stretchy. So you want to make sure that this entire thing fits around up until you get to the very end. So you're going to be a bit tricky about how you're going to single crochet this, because you just have to stretch this as you go, so you have way more room to insert your single crochet stitches. So you're basically going to go now all around with single crochets. I hope you guys understand what I'm doing. Honestly, if you don't, let me know down below and I'll find a way to answer the questions. But again, if you've seen a few of my tutorials, I usually just go in with maybe 2 or more into one available space on the smaller panel, and then the bigger panel I just gap the stitches in as I go. That's the easiest way for me to fit something big into something small, and that's what I always do. So I'm just going to repeat this all around, but you also have to keep in mind that what we did on this side we have to do on this side. So we're later on going to attach this onto this again, so we can have it the same way we did. So I'm going to do that. So you basically have, so grab a stitch marker, just so you know how much you have. You're going to grab a stitch marker, grab the 6 inches on the opposite side, align that edge just the same way we just did, align the edge onto this 13 inches panel and mark that stitch. Again, you're not aligning it to this side, you're aligning it to this side because this is the side that goes around. I almost did that mistake. So you're going to align it to this side, and then you're going to mark the stitch. So you know you're going to stop right there. That basically means like these are the stitches that you have to attach around up until this end. I hope it makes sense, guys, but that's the best way I can explain this. I'm just going to repeat that and I'll see you guys when I have that complete and we do the next step. So I just single crocheted my way up until the stitch marker, and right there I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I did on the opposite side, which is single crocheting the edge of the 6 inches up until this remaining stitches. So I'm just going to grab the crochet hook, just single crocheting these two ends together. You want to make sure that your seam is actually the same place where this is. So your seam shouldn't be on this side, but it should be on the side because this is going to be flat while this is going to cover it at the very end. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into that stitch and I'm going to fold this just the same way, and I'll start single crocheting these two together. So I'm just going to turn this just because I'm right-handed and I'm kind of need to play my way around this. So I'm just going to go into that very first stitch, single crochet that, and from here on I'm just going to single crochet each and every stitch together until I get to the very end. You just have to look at the opposite side and see where the seam is, so you can use that as a guide to know where you should leave the seam. Also, honestly, it just depends if wherever you want the seam to be. But if you decide that you want the seam to be inside, then you're going to just keep doing that for the whole attachment until you get to the very end. I have it attached, which means that the seam is going to be there while the seam is going to be there. I did it wrong again. And from here on I'm going to go ahead and cut off the yarn because the yarn is on the side, but when I'm single crocheting this remaining 6 inches I want the yarn to be on this side. So I'm going to cut off the yarn right there, reattach it on this side, and I'm going to single crochet all the way to the very end, just the same way I did on the opposite side. And I'll see you guys when I have that complete because we're almost there. We just need to do that and we have it almost complete actually. So I finished single crocheting this side. Again, you can see that the seam is inwards, just the same way the seam is inwards because this is going to overlap eventually like that. So now we are going to attach these two ends of the 6 inches together, but we want to make sure one overlaps the other. So you have to decide which one you want to overlap above the other one. But what I'm going to do now is I still have my yarn attached to the side, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I do. So I still have my yarn attached, so I'm just going to turn this all the way, and now I'm going to go ahead and single crochet this edge up until this side. And because I want the seam to later on be inside, I'm going to turn this to this. So I'm carefully going to single crochet the edge of the 6 inches onto the panel. And again, you have to make sure that you just take your time. Remember, I already went in and made that stitches smaller, so I literally have less stitches on there. So I'm just going to single crochet around those stitches that I did decrease with. Hope you guys understand exactly what I'm doing. But these are the stitches right there, and you can see that it's a bit wide compared to the usual sizes, and that's what I'm just basically going to single crochet my way around until I attach that 6 inches edge onto the base of this dress. And right there I have it attached, and it might look a bit awkward, but you guys are going to see. So right there we have it attached. We do have a small gap, which is perfect because then we are going to attach this around the small gap and make sure it overlaps right above this as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and cut this off, cut that off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to align this to the side. But again, because I want the seam to be inwards, we are going to turn this over. So this is basically going over. Hope you guys, so this is going over, which means it is going to overlap with these stitches on this other side. So I'm just going to mark that stitch and attach the yarn to the edge of this opposite side, grab the yarn, and I'm just going to secure this and single crochet as well until I get to the end. And that is basically how I just single crocheted this. Make sure it overlaps between the opposite side. So I'm just going to cut off the yarn now because we are actually complete, and I'm going to sew in all the loose ends. And let me turn this around so you guys can see what it looks like. Obviously it looks a bit rough now because I still have the yarn, the excess yarn still on it. So I'm just going to cut off all this excess yarn, try this on and see what it looks like, and we're going to go ahead and just end off the video right there. So this is the final look. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know if this was fun for you to make. I honestly wanted to just make something very free in a very nice fall color, and that is exactly what I did. I haven't really add this on to see what the fit is, but obviously you guys already see what it fits like from the thumbnail and from the intro. Let me know what you guys would want to see next, if you have any suggestions, and I'll see you guys in my next video.